Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 339. I think it's 339. If it's not, my apologies. It's been a long day. Let's just say that. I have Ricardo Brito on the podcast today. He is a coach helping people discover what's next in their world of work. Also, he doesn't like to toot his own trumpet, but he was like the top 15 coach in Berlin in 2023. How are you today, sir?
I'm fantastic. That's quite the intro. Thank you so much, Miva. And I'm really looking forward to be talking about how meatballs pandemics showed the way to my career.
Yeah, because like this is the thing. You are all about design, like design, product design, and like yeah, it was like what made it all change from that to like becoming a coach. How did that happen? Apart from like the pandemic and meatballs, which is intriguing.
Well, it's been a process, but thank you so much for having me today. So I just wanted to thank you. Looking forward to dive into this world. Yeah, I think it's been a while. I think many people like me has been a while working. So at that point, I was working for what 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Had some career twists and turns. I was a bit dissatisfied with where I was at that point, and with the industry I was working at, like tech in general and product design, was getting into a direction that I was not feeling that was the right one for me, but I didn't also know how to get out. And at a certain point, I had a burnout, and those 8 months completely off work was very confrontational because I was off work, was a pandemic, I couldn't leave the house, so I really needed to munch that over.
Mm.
And yeah, meatballs really helped me because that was one of the things that I started to do to not touch laptops and informed me a little bit what to do next.
Okay. Because like okay, do you have an idea what led to your sort of burnout to like go right, yeah, the world of tech had it up to here. I cannot do it anymore. Yeah.
Oh, so many things. Let's see where I start.
Yeah.
At a certain point, I was working as a consultant before going in house, and there was many years of building stuff that one would leave behind. So you enter, you do a project, you build something, and you get out. So you don't see that product evolving or that company evolving. You just in and out. That
Mm.
started to get tiring. What was getting more tired was doing a lot of strategy, doing a lot of hands-on work and research, and spending weekends working and traveling, living out of a suitcase, and in the end ends up in a PDF in some manager's drawer, which is pretty demotivating if you do some years of that. And in-house started to be also very intense because the pandemic hit really hard, and if you are in organizations where they also come with their own challenges, was leading me to why am I doing what I'm doing? I don't see the value that I deliver. I don't believe in what I'm doing. And yeah, that discomfort led me to one day being in a meeting that I found ridiculous and said, "This is not for me. I cannot. This makes no sense to be here." Sorry.
Mm.
Does that reply to your question? I was a bit
Uh,
vague.
it like this is the thing. It might say it's a bit vague, but like the whole thing is, it gives me sort of clues and insights because like one of the things which I'd often like when people like go, okay, I want to do a big career change, like going from like okay, look, being a consultant in the realm of tech, like I take it living in like Berlin as your base back then, like
Yeah.
let's just say it's going to be a very well paid gig for the most part, and like to like go okay, I'm going to let that go to do what you're doing now. Like wasn't it kind of scary to sort of like go okay, bye bye, nice plushy income to what you've got, like you know what I mean back then.
Straight to the wound. Thank you.
Yeah, no.
Yes, no, but it's true, and I love that you bring that question because like it really plays a role with career transitions, right? Is the economic factor? It's always attached. It's not that it's not all fluff and unicorns. Sure, that was quite a scary move, and yes, working in tech is quite a well-paid job. But at a certain point, also with the people that I've worked with, like as clients, money, I mean, of course this comes from a very privileged point of view that money at a certain point is not the only reason why you work,
Hmm.
right? And if you reach a certain point in your career where you actually make a, a good amount of money, but that's the only reason to get up and to go to work, it's hard to justify that in the long term, right? Because this is not the sole purpose and meaning. So when I jumped into a career coaching, into a coaching business and running my own business, which was something I never wanted to do because I grew up in the family business and I was just like, no, that's really not for me. And then it took me 37 years to realize, well, actually, I actually enjoy it. It was a lot of financial anxiety that one had to deal with.
Yeah, I can imagine because, like, wow, like having a secure paycheck. And look, don't get me wrong, when people like go, okay, I'm starting my own business and stuff like this, and they're moving for something which has been quite secure. If you've got the sort of like transitioning just slightly from what you were doing as an employee to what you're doing now as like a independent contractor slash business person, that's one thing, which is a slightly easier path. But to like go, you know what, I'm going to become a coach, like that is like a hop, skip, and a jump away from what you're doing now, especially when you go, okay, it's a coach where I'm going to help people find what their next step's going to be in like as a career, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's quite a jump, yes. But I think one of the things that support me doing that was being strategic about it, and it
Oh.
also brought me a lot of wisdom or knowledge about what works for a career change and what doesn't. And I think during a burnout I just wanted out, I in those 8 months it's just like I cannot see myself going in front of a laptop and leading a team and doing product and doing strategy. So I was really stuck and I just wanted a change. But if at that point would I have changed, I mean, I found out through a lot of experimentation that in the end coaching might be a viable option.
Hmm.
But whatever career change I would make that was meaningful in the sense that I would make a big jump, not just a marginal jump like going freelancer or going to a slightly different role, like completely change industries and career, it would take time. And so I strategize it, right? I took it by phases. And that's why it helped me to make this transition a little bit smoother and deal with different pains and different fears at different times.
So would you say like this strategy helped sort of cleanse you from like basically cleanse the sort of whatever toxic elements you've picked up along the way to like which basically led to your burnout to get that cleanse going so you were like ready to do what you're doing now?
Oh, that's an interesting twist. Yes, not maybe consciously, but that's definitely happened in the background. I think one good metaphor I can explain to you is one thing is running away from something, and
Mm,
another thing is running towards something.
yes.
And at that point, I just wanted to run away from something. And running away from something means that you are looking back
Hmm.
to see how far you are from that, but you are not really looking forward. You are running away from what's behind. And that's what I wanted when I was doing my burnout. But actually, what I did was running towards something, knowing that I don't want that anymore, but
Hmm.
I'm going in that direction slowly, slowly, this one leaving behind.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Like this, like I've often seen people where like yeah they have run from something and like they go I'm running towards something, but then there are the people which are like yes they're getting pulled by it, it's gravity into the max, and like it's like yeah, and when you talk to them about what they're doing with regards to what their future career is or what like their future project is or whatever that is currently, they have this, there's no other word for it, obsession about it. Would you say you are heading down the path of obsession, or is this more sort of like, whoa, this is the way I want to go, but it's not like, yeah, you're everything at this present time?
Oh, I love that because it's been a lot in my mind, and I'm writing a lot about what meaningful work and what the role of work in our lives.
Mm,
And I used to be obsessed with work because I took a lot of self-esteem from work, a lot of validation from work. So my work and identity was very enmeshed.
hmm
Also, part of what led me to a burnout. And right now I'm not obsessed because I know that obsession does not lead in a good way. I think one thing is pursuing of excellence, but
hmm
obsession and being all and the be all and end all of my life, no, done that does not end up well. So it's more kind of a healthy daily obsession.
Yeah. Only reason why I asked this, just out of my curiosity, now because top 15 coaches in Berlin. Now, for me, that says, yeah, pursuit of excellence is one thing, but to sort of be like registered, like, yeah, to be awarded top 15 in most things, in any sort of career thing, there has to be a slight sliver of obsession. This is the reason why I'm asked, because it seems like you are geared up and ready to go.
Yeah, I see your point. Uh, I think I'm passionate about it. You
Okay.
know, I think passion is more of a look. I work long days. Sometimes I work on the weekends. People think that this he has it all figured out. He has a fantastic, day to day life and routines. I'm not. I'm a person like anybody else who's figuring it out. And but I think I used to be it used to be punch me in the stomach when something would be wrong at my work, right? And at my job would mess with my identity, would mess with my self value. And I think that for me is more the realm of obsession when it affects so much us deeply. Instead of nowadays, if things go less well, I just take it as okay, where can I improve or what is not making sense, and I take it with a different demeanor or a different attitude. But yeah, sure, I'm obsessed. I read, I love this. I love to support people. I love the business that I'm building, but it comes with a different taste. Let's put it like that.
Like, I would say, I could be wrong, but I imagine it most probably comes with a taste of more satisfaction that you are enough, not like you have to constantly fill this like imaginary cup which never gets filled. I could be wrong in saying that.
No, you're totally right. And if I compare also with my corporate life,
Mm,
also you live in structures and you live in environments that you are always against up somebody's standards or an organizational standard that, let's be honest, in tech is often very fluffy, very abstract, and with too many rooms for interpretation depending who's looking at you and their political agenda.
okay, yes, I can imagine, because like this is the thing. I've only touched on tech briefly when I've done a couple of sales jobs, and like, yeah, just in out, but I haven't kind of lived that sort of life of going through being an engineer and being like, you know what I mean, in product design, being in like these sort of special teams. Like, it, from an outsider, there is, as you say, some companies which are just out there fluffy. What on earth is going on? Like, oh my god! Before Twitter was taken over by Elon Musk, and it now became X. No one's going to call it X. Like Elon, no one's going to call it X. Like, you had the sort of TikToks of a day in a life of a like Twitter employee, and like, there were people looking at this like going, "What?" It's like, huh, if I knew it was like that, I'd work there, because what you're doing right now is just getting paid to show up and drink lattes and, like, you know what I mean, go to a meeting here and there. It's a very weird universe, I'd say, tech, from an outsider. You can
Yeah.
tell me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I come from Portugal, and I moved to Germany with $1,000 in my pocket. I quit my job in the middle of the crisis. I came with a sofa for a month, and $1,000 in my pocket, and I didn't have a job. I just noticed that I don't want to stay in Portugal. I was working as a designer already in the peak of the crisis, so that was
Yeah.
fantastic. And and the working conditions were not great. I had like quite some abusive bosses and really toxic environments. And when I came to Berlin and I started to see the world of tech, it's just like, what? I get education budgets and they give me fruit. I mean, just small story. When I was leaving the company where I was working 10 hours a day, where I was just getting paid in Portugal for 8 hours and often working on the weekends and putting my own gas to go to clients, at the end of 3 years and a half, they came after me and say, "We have been monitoring the amount of coffees that you forgot to pay. You owe us 7.5 euros."
What?
In contrast, I arrive here and I'm like, well, there's free fruit, there's free coffee, we pay your education. And it's a, what was that?
Yeah.
I
No,
was also, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna. No, I was just gonna say. Yeah, it's really weird when you don't know, you don't know. But when you actually see or experience that, it's like, what you? Why did you stick at that for 3 years? Why?
Yeah, I mean, in that point, I couldn't afford anything else, right? That was like crisis, and I had to. There's like work situations and life situations that you need to bear with.
Mm,
So that was my case. And when I came here and I see this, I also got in love with this tech world and with these benefits and these kind of cultures. Is I mean, it's fantastic, right? But also the problem is, and that's part of my dissatisfaction. I also had all of that kind of culture started to offset the problems, or more, put it like a gloss on top of actual problems that need to be solved,
mhm,
actual behavioral problems that companies are facing, toxic leadership, bad strategy, exploitive business models. The culture, that culture comes on top and feels good for a while, but at a
yeah,
certain point, like if you are doing meaningless work with in a toxic environment, in an environment that is really also pushing yourself to the limit, in with no particular reason, and but it glosses over with the benefits,
mhm,
it's a cognitive dissonance,
mhm.
it's a bit being gaslighted in a sense.
Yeah. No, like this is the thing. I would like if it was me, I would say it's pretty much like a gilded cage. Everything looks beautiful, everything looks like wonderful, but you're still in a cage nevertheless. The only difference is with it being a gilded cage, like if it okay, with regards to like for example, your job where you're in Portugal and they're after you for 7.25 euros for coffee. Now, like look, you looked at it, it's quite evidence, it's quite clear that it's a crappy job with crappy people. Like, there's only so much crap you'll take. Let me get up and go because it's not doing you any good physically. You know it's not doing you any good psychologically, and ultimately, it's never gonna help you progress in your life any further than who you were back then. Like, if someone like if you stayed there for 10 years and never saw a friend like who saw you go into the job 2 years in, they will come back and go, "You haven't changed," which is a sad state of affairs. You know what I mean? But,
Yeah.
yeah, but with a gilded cage where everything seems that much better, and you're sort of like, "Oh yeah, it's great," but you are growing maybe a little bit, but you're not really sort of growing where you're pushing yourself. You're not really sort of growing where you want to like get better. And because everything seems so good, it's just an illusion. You're in the same position, but slightly better than you were in Portugal. But there's a point you'll never actually leave for the most part. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people because that sort of emphasis, that push, which people need, which that pain, and it unfortunately does. That's the way I see most people change is that un overwhelming pain, which makes a move. That's the thing. And when I would say a lot of people in tech, they don't have that. And then the job goes away, but they'll never be able to find something else of the same equivalent ilk, or like, yeah, they go somewhere else where they just keep on falling into that trap. I could be wrong, but you know what I mean. You know better than I.
No,
Educate.
that's that's an interesting take because it's true because you get comfortable, right? And if I think about how I went through this, it's just like, yeah, okay, I can tolerate this because I'm making good money, or I
Mm,
can, and maybe I'm getting some status out of that if I say that I work for this brand or that brand. But that's very on the outside, right? So when the pain comes, I think
mm,
it comes really at once and it comes in different shapes. So, for example, for me, it came through a burnout, right? I got to a point that I couldn't deal with more nonsense in a sense, right? But there are people who come, for example, through a layoff, and you realize that you just went with the current in this tech world. It gets really comfy.
mhm,
Sometimes you don't even need to push yourself, and you can get promotions and get a good paycheck. But if you are not intentional about what comes next, if anything fails, and often this industry up until this last year was like nothing can touch this industry. When it comes, you don't know what to do because you bet all your horses in all your money in one single horse. So,
mm,
for example, then it's harder to get a job afterwards because you understand, oof, I will not been growing actually in skills or in influence. I was just been going with the current. Or you are so exhausted and so tired that you just want to change. But if you get to that point too late, either you are a burnout, you got laid off, or you are just done with it.
mm,
Ideally, you shouldn't get to that point so you can start thinking about what to do next. You should intentionally, as you go in your career, to think about what could be my next move, what other scenarios could I create for myself. So you create options. It's like medicine. The best medicine is preventative, not when you have the problem and you need to cure yourself.
mm. So, with regards to what you've just said, the best medicine is preventative, like rather than like prevent it rather than cure itself. Like, what would you say to like people to like? What would you say would be the ideal sort of preventive measure? Because who knows? Like in the next year or so, like layoffs can come, and like you know what I mean, up will become down, and down will become up. What would you say would be the best measures they need to take?
Well, a couple of things. So, one, that I'm a big defender, especially because of the layoffs.
Hmm.
Look, I don't defend that anybody needs to be a freelancer or a solopreneur or having their own business, right? But it does help to know if I find myself without a job, and if I find myself being laid off or I don't get a job for a long time, at least I know if I want to do something by my own, I can.
Hmm.
So, but normally people only start thinking about who my customers would be, what would I offer, how would I position myself when they are unemployed or when the situation happens. And you have also your own business. You have been contractor and freelancing, so you need to know who you're going to cater to, what's your strategy, how you're going to approach these people. And if you only think that when you are unemployed or when you already want to change, it's hard. You need time to think through these things. So one thing that I recommend: think about what kind of business would you have while you are employed, and
Hmm.
nurture that, not as a side hustle, not nothing like that, but just think about what it could look like. That would be one.
Hmm.
The second one would be keep investing in the network. People really keep themselves too close in the network, or in there, or too comfortable. I kept networking no matter if my position was stable or not stable. I kept going to interviews and really expanding my network. Also, for people outside of tech, it was very important for me to know people outside of my domain area, to keep
Hmm.
an eye on other potential routes that I could take. Another option is to keep track of what you are doing. That's something that we only keep track, like CVs, portfolios, and so on, once we need it. But one of the things that I work a lot with people is career storytelling, and we create this library of experiences that they never did. And then they realize how much experience they have, how much skills they have. Oh my God, I can do so much with this and position myself differently. So if you keep track of those things, once you get to a point where you have no job, or got fired or burnout, you you prevented things. You know what kind of business you can have. You have the network to lean in. You know exactly how you can position yourself as a freelancer, or as a even trying to find a job. But you have all of that. Does that make sense? Or I
No,
went a bit too far?
it does make sense because, like, this is the thing. I think most people, when it comes down to it, and look, like, they do their 9 to 5, and they will check out at the end of the day. They like the sort of like they look at their job as their job, which is fair. But it's kind of like, yeah, if you the amount of people, I'm not one of these people, but the amount of people, my friends and other people, who get work, not going out there actively looking for job interviews and stuff like this, but they know of someone who's like got this going on and they've got that going on, and they walk straight in and like kind of like go, that, you're getting paid how much to, and you didn't have an interview? No, we had a chat, and you know what I mean, we got things agreed, and away they went. So I understand the value of having a good network of people around you. I think it's a case of many people don't understand that if you decide you're going to be in a sector for a period of time, you need to make sure you're a member of that community, because it's very easy to, like, for example, London, city of 8 million people, huge, vast. You start breaking that down into whatever job roles and everything like this, that city shrinks quite quickly into like a very small pool,
Yeah.
which you need to be involved in. I think it's very important, and you raise a good point there, which I don't think many people take advantage of. You know?
No, and I think I work with people that say, but I'm not an extrovert. Well, how do I create network? I'm not an extrovert. I don't want to go to put myself out there in events, and connecting people and so on, and selling myself. And I said, look, I'm a networker by nature with persons, but can you believe that I doubled my network during the pandemic without leaving my bedroom? Because it's got so much easier to connect with people, to reach out to the right people, right?
Mm.
So you don't have this. If you are a little bit more introvert, or social aspects intimidate you, you don't have this awkwardness to go to an event and trying to approach people, or I don't know, squeezing into a circle of people with them, you're like, hi. you know so it's actually quite effective, because if you go to an event, you go out there, maybe the people that you want to connect are not there. You spend 2 hours with the wrong two people, and it's a completely waste of time in network perspective, if you want to say that. But if you are at home, you can control the situation, you can talk with the right persons, you can expand a lot this network, even if you are highly introvert and you don't want to go outside. So there is even this idea that networking is just for extroverts. It's not. Like, a lot of introverts can also creating this network, and I think one should lean into that. But we need to demystify this idea that networking is only for extroverts and people that put themselves out there.
Mm. I think if you are, like, for example, if you are on the old LinkedIn and you put out a post, which, you know what I mean, people put out posts all the time, but let's just say the value of a post out there on social media can be hmm, absolute garbage to something which is quite meaningful and, yes, holds great value. And if you are an introvert which happens to put out something like that, people soon start to like gather around you because you have something valuable to offer to their day to day and to that conversation. So, you know,
Yeah, totally. And that's an excellent point.
yeah. Now, so with like, with building someone's network, everything like this. Now, one of the things I would always say, resilience is an important thing because the knockbacks come again and again and again, especially if you're like going, yeah, I want to change out of this career. And I've seen there's five companies I want to go for. These are my top five.
Yeah.
And one, two, three, four, five knockbacks happen. Trying to keep that, like, keep going is the one of the hardest things. So when you tell people, like when you talk to them as a coach, what, like, how often would you say you bring up resilience to them?
I think it's very often resilience is, or the lack of it or the creation of it is at the core, because I work with different people at different stages. So I
Mm,
work with people who are employed and want to change, or they have a runway to change, or they are looking for their next step. So I have like the pathfinders, which are the ones that, I don't know which path I want to go, but I'm still comfortable with money and career and stability, and I need to figure out what to do next, just to create options. And I have people who I call them the navigators of the fog, in the sense which is like they know exactly, they go more or less where they want to go, but they need a little bit guidance and strategy to get there. But then I work also with another segment, which is the segment who are unemployed, right? And they are sponsored by the state. And I also love that particular segment. And I think especially their resilience, it's really a huge topic. And resilience is, I mean, it can take many shapes and forms. I think for a lot of people is first is recovering from the blow
hmm
of losing a job. Second, the application process and getting rejected and all of that's tough. And we assume that is also tough. I don't sugarcoat is, we talk about the numbers, we talk about the marketing stuff, but we also talk about, so getting putting names into the reality, because it's very easy to personify this. It's my fault.
mm,
It's me. But let's be honest. Look, in 2022, there was the double of the jobs in design, for example, than there is now. And now there is three times more the people in the market, because a lot of people reskill to become designers and all of that. So there is a surplus of designers and less than half the jobs. So
mm.
it's us, when you used to have like 50 people applying to a job, nowadays you have 300. So one of the things that I mentioned, like I show also statistics. I'm always on top of the reports and so on. Like, look, let's be honest. First of all, this is a numbers game. Don't personify this on you. It's not just about your values. It's literally a numbers game. Then I also talk with the people on the other side, right? The hiring managers, and the hiring managers say, I mean, I cannot go over 500 people. If you have a recommendation for me, great, tell me, send me a message on LinkedIn, because they get like fast lane, because I don't want to go to 500 portfolios. So because I know all of this is how we also bring resilience back to coaching, right? And here is a bit overlapping with mentoring as well, because I'm a bit being directive, but I show the numbers of, look, you are playing with huge numbers, you are maybe not using the right strategy. If you are doing everything that everybody does, you are reducing the amount of chances that you have to get a job. So you need to get creative. That's what I call the pirate techniques. Go there at the office, knock on their door, storm them on LinkedIn, send them emails, put yourself out there like in a different way, because sending an application is easy. But
Mm.
and another thing that is maybe the most important is, are you applying to the right jobs and position yourself the right way? Because a lot of the rejections that we have, when we study them, we realize, first, you never wanted that job. Second, you didn't position yourself well for that job when you could. So if you analyze this, people realize, well, I'm getting rejected by the people that I don't want to be with. Yeah. So by reducing that and just investing more on quality, for example, uh, resilience doesn't need to be so strong, because you are also reducing the friction
Mm.
with
Yeah,
the whole market.
no, I get it. Like reducing the friction, taking out the obstacles, and like basically, like basically finding the inroads for success. All of these things combining to helping people change. Now, well, change their career. I,
Yeah.
yeah, I do find it fascinating because look, one of the things I always like, I know it in myself and I see it amongst other people. Like when they go, I'm going to get a new job. It's a bit like people going to the gym for the first time. They are so out of shape to like in the realm of sort of job hunting. It's unreal because if you went, oh yes, here's your CV. Now go out and get jobs. And you talked about like yeah, telling stories and stuff like this, but it's like yeah, it takes a bit of time to get there, getting that sort of I've been in a stable job for a long time, or I've like yeah, I've got that comfort job weight on me, you know.
Yeah, yeah, totally. And when we get comfortable, or also when we do too many things, we also, yeah, we forget the things we did. We forget the value that we bring. So when I tell about stories, like I work with storytelling, is because there is two things that happen when you tell a story of your career. Let me put it like this: they say that our career should be straight, right? A straight, no, actually, like that, a straight line with checkpoints makes sense. It's all sequential, fair enough. But actually, they say no. That line goes upwards. It's evolving and moving forward, and but life is messy, right? You have a breakup, you have a bad boss, you have a pandemic. I don't know, you name it, and all of that, it meshes with your work. But we try to have these cohesive stories about our careers, right? And especially the more comfortable you are in one place and in the company, you really lose this muscle of selling yourself and putting yourself out there, as you said, right? So we cope with this in two ways. Either we just tell facts and figures: this is what I did, this is how I did it, hire me.
Mm.
Okay. The other one is, oh, I have so many stories and I have such a bright career and so long, which is great. And then you try to compile a whole library into a book, right? It's like a sci-fi book, a lover's guide, a manual to fix your car, a business card, everything. And then you expect that that story flies with anybody you tell. Not that great. So when you enter this process of, it gets messy on telling stories. And that's why one of the main pillars that I work with is really career storytelling. Like, let's dig deeper into even the jobs you had when you were a teenager in summer camp or in a bar. Even there you were learning about customer service.
Yeah. Now, how did you become so good at being like a storyteller yourself? Because hey, you come across rather well, sir. Yeah.
Thank you so much. It was the only thing that really helped me in my career. Like, I have a background in fine arts, not finance, fine arts. Sometimes my accent is a bit weird. So I studied painting, sculpture, cinema, photography, which is all about storytelling. And just as a side note, since I was not a great artist per se, technically speaking, I really need to lean into stories to justify my crappy artwork. So maybe started there.
There you go.
but but look, getting a job, moving countries, reinventing myself. I mean, I became an intern again in Berlin after years in the market as a professional. All of that was stories that, like, how can I reposition myself? How can I show myself valuable to other companies? How can I move from an analogic industry to a digital industry and show that there is value from that past experience in this experience? So it's just training that. And then on top, as a consultant, you train a lot of presentation skills. I got into, like, public speaking, so that also helps. Creating narratives. What I didn't understood, and I also learned a lot that through therapy and through other practices, that stories, that's what make us as humans. That's how we learn, that's how we memorize, that's how we socialize. So I realized storytelling always helped to advance my career because it's also such a human thing to do, if that makes sense. Sorry,
Yeah,
went on a
no,
tangent.
no. It does. It does. No, but like this is the thing. In this conversation we're having right now, like yeah, the story you're telling, like yeah, the very impression I get from you. Now, like okay, to like up and leave one's home country to go to a city you don't know anything about with only €1,000 in your pocket to then like pursue a career where you became like drop back down to being an intern. It says like it says a couple of things about you. One, you're not scared to take a gamble uh, on like on moving and a gamble on yourself. a number of times because yeah, going into going into tech and then basically becoming a coach right there. And yeah, two, I would say like yeah, you like courage is a strong character trait. What from your story, which comes across, and without that, like the courage to change, like change countries, the courage to change sectors, the courage to go in to being working for yourself in a totally new field again. Oh, yeah. And attention to detail. You know what I mean? Could be
Well,
wrong. Could be wrong. Like you might be a crappy artist, but yeah, I mean, yeah, but you know what I mean. I think
yeah.
yes, you make it up for it in many other ways. Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for the kind words and also the interpretation, right? And one of the things, because you mentioned about like moving countries and being brave and being courage. I've worked with a lot of people who did similar moves, right? Who changed countries. I mostly work actually with foreigners or people from an immigrant background, either temporary or not. And a lot of people who do these moves, they hide a lot of that story. They hide a lot of that past, when because yeah, there's many reasons for that. Maybe it's shame. Maybe it's about wanted to come across as strong, or the country of origin. I don't know. Like Portugal was also not the best when I left Portugal, but I turned that into a strength. Like, look, if I survive an economic crisis and I was hold the job and I couldn't deliver, believe me, in a good economy, I can do even more. So the work that I do with a lot of people is also turning those human stories that we normally don't see. How can I put this into the work context and actually make that a superpower? Because that is a superpower. You having the courage to rebuild yourself from scratch, to move to another country, to deal with another culture. It brings a lot of like cultural intelligence, resilience, problem solving. Try to move to a country where you don't speak the language. Even years after being here, you have troubles in speaking the language. You don't understand the tax system. You don't all of the problems that people who move here solve, so quickly. This is a skill that you put at work. It's like being, I'm not a father or a mother or a parent, but for example, if you there is reasons why you should hire parents, because they are good at solving so many problems in their own life and being strategic about it, and multiple juggle. This is not a liability, it's actually a superpower. So I try to digest these stories from the people that I've worked with and turn them into differentiators when they apply to jobs, when they put themselves out there. And that also brings authenticity to the story, because now you're not just talking about the projects or your impact, you're also talking about how your life story shaped you. And actually, why they should hire you is because you are this freaking awesome person that overcomes so many things and brings this value. Does, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. I understand. Yeah. But like this is the thing, with the journey you've taken, like from Portugal up until now, what would you say has been the one thing which has surprised you about the journey so far for you?
Oof. Well, I think we have more in ourselves than we give ourselves credit for. I think that was more surprising. I'm more resourceful than I thought I was.
Mm,
I could have believed more in myself. For sure, I could have a little bit more self trust and self esteem at certain points. But I think once you are dropped in the cold water, it's also interesting how your brain just like, well, okay, need to solve that. We're gonna solve this, and this is not does not come natural to me, right? So it was very interesting that was very surprising that when we are in the situation, we can actually react. That was surprising, maybe on a very personal level. Yeah.
okay, yeah. Because like this is the thing, I think what some people do suffer from in this life of ours, they don't actually sort of take enough bites out of the cherry of life. So they
Hmm.
don't actually get an idea of a concept of who they could truly be. That like I always say everyone kind of knows who they are, like 20-30% of who they are. If they really are working on themselves, like yeah, maybe 40. 50 out of push. 50 out of push. You meet anyone who goes, I know myself totally. Yeah, just watch that person because they've gone to some very dark places at times,
Mhm.
and they've like yeah, and they've crossed a vast array of like gambits. Because like for example, myself, I go, yeah, I know. Like I went, yeah, you it around about the time of pandemic, I go, yes, I know about 20-30% of who I am. Blah 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 blah. Blah. And I would stand firm on that. I might go, yeah, maybe a little bit more. About 20 months ago, yeah, my little one came into the world. Everything I thought I knew about myself, scrap that. It's like back down to, yeah, 5, 10, and like trying to work out how I sort of work now with my lady, my little one, and the world in general. And I think it's one of those things where, and unfortunately, it's not like one of those things where it goes, okay, as she grows and develops and grows and develops, everything keeps on changing. So it's like, I've got it, I've got this sus. No, reset, keep on learning, keep on growing, trying to keep up, and it goes at a pace. And I think many people, because they haven't sort of like gone, yes, who am I? Really
Hmm.
sort of sit down, who am I? And they look into the mirror of truth, and like this is the thing. The painful thing about the mirror of truth, it shows you all of the infinite wonder and glory of who you are as an individual, as a person, but then shows you the darkness, and with regards to what what are you not good at, what makes you like, you know what I mean, what makes you weak, what makes you like not sometimes like the best person you might want to see in this world. Because like the truth is the truth, and sometimes it's ugly for like some people. It's hard to do that, you know.
Yeah, it is. I have so many questions for you. I don't even know where to start now.
Oh, ask away, ask away.
um, I think the more you delay, the more you delay looking at the mirror, the the uglier the reflection will become.
Mm,
And I think when, for example, I went through this burnout and I went through this phase, I had to ask myself a lot of hard questions and a lot of questions that I was not ready to ask myself. And at the same certain point, a friend of mine from childhood was also going through his life struggles, and we, at a distance, you know, helping each other. And he says to me, the crisis that we are having is the crisis that our parents have when they're retired.
mm,
So it's better to ask these questions now than to ask them later, because otherwise you spend a life in an autopilot trying to not see the reflection. But at a certain point, the reflection, comes back. So my question to you, following up, is what helps you to keep centered and motivated to ask those questions and looking at that reflection?
Um, I would say it's because now I have an understanding that life is not static. It is always constantly changing. And without myself adapting to the changes what go on around me, it's easy to sit down and go, nothing's changing, and I could like put my head in the sand and ignore it. But I like in a passive state, I'm changing. I'm getting older. Like the world's changing around me, and if I take my head out of the sand, like friends, family have moved on to different things, and I've missed a whole heap array of options which could help me or help me grow. But I need to be present. I need to like keep a constant eye on it. Not to in the sort of realm of like, this is my utter focus. Live my life, do it. But I do need to check in. Because if I don't check in, I've checked out. And if you're a checked out individual, that doesn't do the world any benefit, and it doesn't do any benefit for my life in a whole. And like, yeah, with like, yeah, being a parent, like, before I was a parent, like, yeah, the more I checked in, the better my life became, and the more things became more together. When I was checked out, things happened and you could react to those things, but more times than not, because you haven't paid attention to the sort of rest of the picture, get wiped out. And that has happened a couple of times with regards to, you know what I mean, financial crisis in 2008. And just like, you know what I mean, when unemployment has come to me, yeah, trying to get back up hard, but I still managed to get back up. But nothing really changed until I started to check in more.
Oh, I love that. Check in so you don't check out. That's lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just personal observations, and it's observations I've seen in other people. And it's one of those things you can say it to people, you can like try dragging them to it, but you've got to be like, hey, lay down a breadcrumb here, lay down a breadcrumb there. When they are ready to, like, you know what I mean, go, oh, I, s- I understand, I can see. That's when it comes together, you know?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I relate to that.
Yeah, like if you got any more questions, please, I'm happy to, like, you know what I mean? Be on the
Yeah,
other foot.
sorry.
No, be on the other foot. Like I normally ask the questions, but yeah, if you want to ask questions, go ahead, man.
No, I had that one. That I'm still munching on that reply because it's actually quite profound and it's we go back to this metaphor of the preventive medicine, right? Like if you keep
Mm,
checking in and if you keep seeing what you can change or what needs attention and you keep contributing to it on a small and course correct very small things, it amounts right to the person that you are, to the career that you might want to be. You It's not just a one time gigantic push that now you need to rethink and you need to recover from.
mm,
And I love that.
mm. And like this is the thing, like when like with courses, like you like course correction, like everyone like goes, this is my set course, but when they don't check in with it, like for example, if you flew from Germany to New York and you were 1 or 2 degrees off, you miss New York by hundreds of miles rather than like being like landing directly. So you know what I mean. It all ties in, you know.
Yeah. And in careers and in like life choices, like career wise, we often lose track of these small degrees that we are compromising. And we very a lot of us focus just on the next step that might bring the thing that I want, right? It often is just a promise, and we keep compromising and we keep compromising, maybe next year, maybe that company, maybe this. And when we realize we are totally off course. And another thing that comes to mind compared to connection to that is the direction that we want to go.
Mm,
Is sometimes we want to go so far that we don't understand what it takes to get there. And that is really hard because it implies a lot more effort, it implies a lot more gamble, and it implies a lot more pain. So when we are in a career and we start course correcting where we want to go or where we could be or what our plan B could be, we might not know exactly the direction, but we the route is taking us somewhere that is intentional.
mm.
I
Yeah.
was trying to create this metaphor. I'm not sure if that worked out.
No, like this is the thing with regards to the intention. I I would say it's one of those things when people often like go, yes, I want this as my sort of final destination for a career. It is like I look at it and go, yeah, that's great, but the compromises might come, and you might not necessarily be where you like want it to be. Like this is the thing. If I spoke to you like when you just left Portugal and went, yeah, you go, okay, where I'll go, what do you want to be doing in like 15 years time? You're like going, yeah, I I want to be working in tech doing X, Y, and Z. we fast forward to present day. You've done that, and now you are a coach. So you know what I mean. Like you have to go through that whole journey to sort of like go. This is where like my destination is. You know. And,
For now, right? It's more of an
yeah.
interrail. For now, for now, that's the direction, but it might change. And I think that's also one of the biggest change in our modern times, if I can call it modern times, which is we need to reinvent ourselves so often and to define new different directions, define new routes that route we really need to get better at this, at reinventing ourselves, at understanding what destinations are there. And I'm a big defender that is not about a single destination. It's
Yeah.
more about what multiple destinations can do create with different levels of complexity, different levels of feasibility, or that you, or maybe different timelines. But
Mm,
I think we need to change more to this mindset, creating a lot of more destinations for ourselves, and maybe understand which travel agency can we use and which plan can we use, rather than say I want to go there no matter what, even if it means swimming the whole ocean, which
yes.
probably not the best idea.
No, no. And like, and when you say reinventing, I think this is one of the things where people can sometimes get confused. Reinventing, but still being true and authentic to oneself. Because some people like, go, I must reinvent myself, and they go off on this like weird tangent, and I go, I'm this person now, but they are going against who they truly are authentically, and that sometimes will hurt them in their sort of progress going forward. If you get what I mean.
Yeah, totally. Because you focus on a model and you focus on something. It's like creating another persona that is just a model. Is it in tune with what you really are and what you really want, or is where are these models coming from? Where is this narrative and this desire coming from? Totally, I agree with you.
Yeah. No, I like this is the thing. We're hmm, how can I say? Now, basically, with all of this like change and like the whole like now you are your own business. You're your own business. You're a business owner, going from employee to business owner. Like, what would you say? Has anything surprised you in this sort of change?
Oof, so many things. Not sure which one exactly are you looking for.
Right? Like, what would okay? Let's be more specific. Okay, what has been the most impactful surprise from starting your own business?
Apart from the amount of taxes I need to pay, trusting my own gut.
Mm,
That is been one of the things that is most surprisingly is that I'm not a very gut person sort of thing. I always need to be a bit strategized and realistic and so on. Maybe my gut was telling me that, but I needed to prove that is the right direction or the right decision.
mhm,
And that, well, running in my own business meant, first of all, I need to do a lot of stuff, so I don't have time to rethink and second guess myself every decision. So a lot of the decision needs to be, gut feeling. And there are decisions that there is no possibly way to know if this is the right bet. Am I doing the right thing? Am I investing the time in the right product? Am I investing the time in the right people? Am I You don't know. So I tried to rationalize this and things backfired. So I realized that the best decisions I made through this process of creating my own business was
mhm,
my gut was always right. Even when my mind was saying, don't do it, doesn't sound good, you don't have enough facts, it's not that secure. And my gut was telling me, I have a good feeling. That's the right thing to do. So that was very surprising because I come from tech. You need to justify every single thing. You need to move a button 2 pixels. How many people did you test that? How many HP testing? What's your statistics? So yeah, it's a big change to trusting my own gut in my decisions.
mm. Excellent, excellent. I like that. Trust in your own gut, because I think many people like they don't trust their own gut, and like yeah, all like it's one of those games where, in hindsight, my
Okay.
gut was right. It's like in hindsight, and you're like, okay, yeah, trust it a little bit more and go with it. Oh, tough times, tough times. I have to ask, like, when you said you were going to become a coach, to your like family and friends, what was their reaction? Just out of curiosity.
Well, the topic, a lot of people like, oh yeah, it makes sense
Okay.
because on the topic level, right? On the topic level, everybody was just like, yeah, it makes sense. I mean, that's the part that I love in my job was the people, was never the technical part. So I love people. I love to work with people. I love collaboration. I love to help people grow. So it was not so far fetched in terms of the nature of the work. When I say I want to do this full time and making my own business, that's when a lot of like, what? It's just like everybody's scraping for jobs, everybody's being laid off, everybody like it's a tough economy, and you are doing it. Yeah, well, well there's no better time than now, because and my gut was right. Everybody was saying you will not going to find customers, you will not going to find clients, you're not going to find people that will pay. It's like in the end, I did
Mm.
because it's also a wave that the market is going, and I understand it, and that was the gut feeling. It's like I know that something is here, like exactly the same gut feeling I had when 3 years ago I said this tech bubble is going to burst very soon, when everybody was saying no, 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 everything is great. So I think everybody was more afraid of that, like going deep into the unknown as and opening a business in this economy. No. Especially my
No, no,
parents were not very happy about it. They were
no.
supportive, but they were like, okay, holding my breath here.
Yeah, no, no. Like this is the whole thing. Parents are never happy until they see at least a year's worth of money come in. And they're like, yeah, I supported you all the time. I was with you from the beginning. Sure. It's like, you was like, oh, of course you were.
I mean, I can say that mine were, but they were probably like biting their nails until I kind of said, you know what, I'm leaving out of this. It's fine. All good.
It's like, look, this is my bank statements. It's like, there you go. Proud of you, son. Proud of you. It's like, like I have to ask, like with regards to this journey of yours, where would you like it to go? Say in the next couple of years or so. Where?
It's hard to say, I have to say, because I'm really enjoying working directly with people, right? One on ones. And really, I like this connection. I like the group connection as well. So, in a sense, it's a hard business to scale, right? Because I'm only one person. So I'm figuring out where this is going, where I can still have this connection with the people and maybe helping a bigger number of people, but with me involved in a direct way. So it's hard to say. I want to keep developing what I offer, and I want to keep updated with the zeitgeist that we live. So that means that maybe what I've been doing for the last 2 years and might work for another 2 years, and maybe there is new problems to solve that I can come and help. So it's really hard to say. I think ideally in my life, I want to start working less, so because and the business becomes a little bit I don't know, not so much hands on with everything, and I have more time for things that I also want to do. That's a goal for me. So I don't have these goals of massive growth and expanding this business. I want to do an honest business that pays the bills, can have a proper life, allows me time to spend with my family or to build one. um, yeah, and the topics I like to change. So let's see where this goes.
I'm liking that. Liking that a lot. Seeing where it goes. Like, yes. Interesting. Like, it strikes me as, yeah, you would. Now, like with that in mind, the journey and stuff like this. You strike me as a person where I would say gratitude for things is very important. I think it might be sort of building blocks for things for the future for you. Like, I could be wrong about you, but that's the vibe I get. What was one of the main things of this year so far has given you the greatest sense of gratitude?
So many things, but I think my partner, and I'm not talking about my business partner, although at this point my partner is also a co-founder in this sense because it's out. So I think that's my biggest sense of gratitude is just having such a supportive partner who's there for me both emotionally, both business, strategic, and I think it's a solid foundation for me to have such a person in my life in that completes me in so many dimensions, but it can also understand what I'm building and what does that mean for our life.
Hmm.
So that's it's hard. It's hard also to be a partner of somebody who's building something, right? And I have the most amazing, supporting, loving partner that I could wish for. So I think that I'm extremely, extremely grateful for that.
Mm. Oh, that's great. That's great because, like, yeah, what people think, so many people think everyone does it, like anyone who's great and successful in life does it by themselves. They don't have, like, it's all like, yes, the heavens opened up, the hand of God came down and like anointed me on that day, and I knew I was going to be successful. But like all of the people which support, help you along the way in the journey, people like just see the that pinnacle of success, and they don't actually read the book. They just see the cover, and it's like, yes, this is how a successful person. More
Yeah,
times than not, people who are actually do go for it, they are like, if you looked at the amount of failures they had on a day-to-day basis, oh, more than the average, you know.
yeah, yeah. You don't build anything alone,
Mm.
anything, and I think like was looking at other things that I built in my life, like friends, networks of people that I invested, and so on. And I do a lot of also pro bono work, for example. That's something that I also like to do. And all of these relationships, also this give and take, that's what builds careers. And up until now in my career, I always also, since a young age, I always lucky enough to have people blowing the air in my wings. Is that the expression in English?
Putting
So
the wind in my sails.
the win in
Or
my sales, right? I had good mentors. I had people who pushed me forward. I also had terrible bosses and people who also cut my wings for sure. But and I was always grateful for these people. I was always grateful, and so it's inflicted in me that we all work it. We are in this together, and even when I work with partners, like with I'm using partner too much, so they might be confusing. But when I hire other people to do work for me, for example, in terms of strategy or other things I need in my business, uh, it's a partnership. It's really a partnership of working together. What can I do for you? Can I bring you more clients? How can I? It's all this we all build on top of each other, and I don't believe that really people build stuff alone. It's they are lying. Nobody does. They might not be telling, but nobody does.
love it, love it. Ah, man. Now, final question. You know what I mean? I have nothing else to ask. But yeah, but like, this is the thing. If there was a coach or a mentor, like, alive right now, you could learn something from, which coach would you like that to be?
you know, it sounds a bit of a cliche answer, but I think I could have asked better questions to my grandparents. I think there's a lot of wisdom in their lives, and unfortunately, my two grandfathers went way too soon. And I think nowadays I would go there to them and ask them questions that I was not able to ask when I was too young. So, I, you know,
I see. What would be one of the questions you would ask?
So it's that's a tough one. I know, for example, one of my grandparents, my grandfather had his own business,
Mhm.
was successful to a certain extent, was quite visionary. I never gave him credit for that. It was a lot of insight, right? And he was kind of this pillar in the family, which I always took for granted. Right now, running, I don't even have my own. I don't have kids or anything. So like, and I'm running my business, and I'm much more educated. I'm much. I have a lot of different resources that he didn't had, and I'm wondering how this man was resilient enough and visionary enough to do what he did, and how did he find inspiration, and how did he find the strength to keep it together and to move forward and to and to deal with so many parts of businesses, extended family, health issues, and being all of this almost central pillar of Zen for everyone. You know, I drinked from that. I don't know the trick, and then I would today I would have a very different question. What how can you make it? What helps you to do that? What's your secret?
I hear you. I hear you. Ah, uh, my word.
I
I'm
did
very
not see that coming.
oh,
Sorry.
well, hey, what can I say? I'm crafty like that. There you go. No, like Ricardo. Look, as I say, I have no more questions. I got to say thank you for coming on today. Let the people know how they can find you out there in this big wide world. Come on now.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed myself. So where people can find me? I'm mostly on LinkedIn. So I write newsletters on yeah. I'm on LinkedIn where you can find videos and newsletters and connect directly with me and having some chats. People can find me on Instagram as well, where I also share some more spontaneous videos and reflections. And I write a newsletter called Burning Thoughts every second week, where I make use of my arts degree. With I was a crappy artist, but I'm a semi okay illustrator, and I can justify that to my parents. See, I'm using it. um, and yeah, I actually prepared something for your listeners.
Oh,
So I have a gift, which is this career storytelling kit. So we've been telling stories and talking about stories, right? So I have this toolkit that people can use, download for free, and it comes with a webinar of around about 40 minutes that teaches the importance of storytelling in your career and what can you tell and how can you do and tell better stories. And it's for free for downloading. Maybe you can put it on the links, but on the description, and people can download that and see if they can start telling better stories.
uh, the link, it will all be in the description, you lovely people out there. So yeah, click away. Right, yes, get that power of storytelling on. Brilliant. Ricardo, thank you for
Molly,
coming on today. You are a star, a superstar, a legend, a living legend. There you
don't keep
go.
brushing my ego.
There you go. What can I say? This is why I get the big bucks. I get no money whatsoever. It's that kind of like, one day, just a little bit of meat in my life. There you go. But yes, I'd like to say thank you to you, Ricardo, and I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, for sticking with us all the way until the end. Let me just say this. Please stay well, stay safe, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic, be all the positive bees in the world, and and then some. Have a great one, guys. Peace. And we are out.